What began as a mission to bring peace to Eastern Congo is now spiraling into a far more dangerous situation, one that could pull South Africa and Rwanda into a direct military confrontation. At the heart of this growing tension is the Democratic Republic of Congo's president, Felix Tshisekedi. It all started when South Africa, under the Southern African Development Community, sent troops into eastern Congo to combat the rising threat of the M23 rebels. For years, this armed group has wreaked havoc in the region, forcing thousands to flee their homes. However, instead of bringing stability, South African soldiers soon found themselves in the midst of an all-out war. What was meant to be a peacekeeping mission quickly turned into a nightmare. Bullets tore through the air. Grenades exploded without warning. And missiles rained down on troops who had expected a very different kind of operation. The battle was relentless, and tragedy struck when 13 South African soldiers lost their lives in combat. Then came a moment that sent shockwaves around the world. Harrowing footage emerged of South African troops waving a white flag, a universal sign of surrender. This desperate attempt to survive raised even bigger questions. Who was responsible for this bloodshed? As the dust settled, accusations flew fast and hard. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa wasted no time pointing fingers at Rwandan President Paul Kagame. He claimed Kagame was fueling the flames of this conflict by secretly supporting and arming the M23 rebels, the very group that had turned their mission into a battlefield. The message from South Africa's Minister of Defense was crystal clear. The blood of the fallen soldiers was now on Kagame's hands. If Rwanda didn't back down, South Africa was prepared to respond militarily. However, Kagame wasn't having any of it. He struck back fiercely, rejecting every claim and shifting blame right back onto Ramaphosa. From Kagame's perspective, the real issue wasn't Rwanda's involvement in the M23 conflict. It was South Africa stepping into a fight it didn't fully understand. In a bold public statement, Kagame laid out his stance clearly. He claimed that South Africa's mission in the DRC wasn't about peace at all. Instead, it was an outright combat operation designed to prop up the Congolese government against its own people. Even more alarming, he accused South African forces of fighting alongside genocidal militias, specifically naming the FDLR, a rebel group notorious for its hostility toward Rwanda. His words carried an unmistakable edge, almost daring Ramaphosa to reconsider his position. Kagame took things a step further by accusing Ramaphosa of distorting private conversations between them, twisting their discussions to fit South Africa's political agenda. He claimed he had spoken with Ramaphosa twice that week about the crisis, but asserted that what South African officials were telling the media was full of deliberate lies. Then came his sharp jab that cut through all political formalities. If Ramaphosa ever gave me a warning, he must have said it in a language I don't understand. This remark suggested that whatever warning South Africa was talking about never actually happened, or at least not in a way that mattered to him. Meanwhile, back in South Africa, Ramaphosa took to Twitter with his own message. He struck a somber yet strategic tone while mourning the 13 soldiers killed in action. A painful reminder that this conflict wasn't just about politics. It was about real lives lost in a war spiraling out of control. For outsiders observing this crisis unfold, it seemed like a straightforward story. South Africa was stepping in to help the DRC fight the M23 rebels. while Rwanda was portrayed as the villain secretly backing them. This narrative seemed to align with President Ramaphosa's accusations against both M23 and the Rwandan Defense Force. But then came a move no one saw coming. Kagame flipped the entire story upside down. Instead of dodging blame or launching vague diplomatic responses, he hit back with a stunning counterclaim. The South African soldiers who lost their lives weren't killed by M23 rebels at all. They were killed by their supposed allies, the Congolese army itself, FARDC. In an explosive twist that sent shockwaves through political circles, Kagame claimed that Ramaphosa had privately admitted this fact. President Ramaphosa confirmed to me that M23 did not kill the South African soldiers. FARDC did. With this single statement, Kagame shifted focus entirely. If true, everything South Africa believed about its mission could be a lie. The implications were staggering. If FARDC was behind these deaths, then this wasn't just tragic battlefield casualties. It was political betrayal. The troops deployed under SADC's peace mission were meant to reinforce Congo's fight against rebel forces, but instead found themselves caught in a much more complex and dangerous game, one where even their supposed allies could turn against them. This raised an even bigger question. Why would the Congolese army target its own allies? Critics began connecting dots that painted an unsettling picture. Some analysts suggested President Tshisekedi wasn't truly interested in ending this conflict because keeping it alive worked in his favor. A prolonged war allowed him to maintain international sympathy and secure foreign aid, while deflecting attention from his administration's failures, corruption scandals, and economic instability. Kagame has long accused Tshisekedi of playing the victim card, using the M23 rebellion as a shield from accountability. Publicly, Tshisekedi insists M23 is merely a Rwandan-backed militia destabilizing Congo. However, Kagame asserts that behind closed doors, Tshisekedi knows better. When Kenyan President William Ruto and other East African leaders pushed for peace talks between Tshisekedi's government and M23 rebels, Tshisekedi refused to attend, a decision that spoke volumes about his true intentions. If his true goal were peace, why would he dodge discussions that could bring it? To Kagame, it became clear. Tshisekedi had no real intention of ending this war because as long as Congo remained chaotic, he could maintain power amid crisis. A chaotic DRC meant continued global sympathy and international funding for Tshisekedi, but stopping the fighting would force him to confront issues hidden by war, corruption and political failures threatening his leadership. What do you think will happen in the coming days? Will diplomacy prevail or will tensions escalate further? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.